Alright, so today's going to be a much different video than what we normally do. Today we're going to be going over the This Week at Bungie that was posted on Thursday this week. And today's topic is going to be going over the Destiny Content Vault. And if you guys are not aware, the Destiny Content Vault is a way of removing things and adding things back into the game from Destiny 1 or Destiny 2. So first let's go over what is going to be leaving the game on November 10th when Beyond Light hits. This is very important because some of this stuff might not return. Might not, with a little grain of salt, if you will. So let's start out with the strikes of what's going to be going on. So the Pyramidion, the Festering Core, Savathûn Song, Strange Terrain, Will of Thousands, Probability, and a Garden World. But in addition to those leaving, there are going to be two new ones, Will of Crota, and then a redacted one that is going to be coming on Europa with a new strike. But it also does say here that the Devil's Lair and Fallen Saber, which are Destiny 1 strikes, are going to be reprised for Destiny 2 in a new way. We're not sure how that is, or if it's just going to be exactly the same as it was, but we do know they are coming back to Destiny 2. But continuing on with This Week at Bungie, it does go on to state that Gambit is going to be the next thing that is going to be seeing some changes, which we all expected. But the good news is, this is very good news, is that it is removing Kel's Grave and Cathedral Scars. If you don't know what Kel's Grave is, it is the Tangled Shore map for Gambit. It is one of the worst things ever to happen to this game, because it is just the worst thing in the world, because you just fall off constantly with the boss just knocking you off, and it's just a whole annoyance. But other than that, it does state here that it is going to be kind of fused into one game mode, and is going to be shifting more towards a Gambit Prime, which is great news. No more having to sit around through 3 matches, which is huge news for Gambit players if you do enjoy that. But the maps that are going to be staying are the Emerald Coast, Legion's Folly, Deep Six, and New Arcadia, which is interesting because some of those locations will be leaving, so it is interesting to see that some of the maps corresponding to the planets that are leaving will be staying. It does state here though, it says the new version of Gambit will be similar to Gambit Prime as a single round face-off with tweaked blockers, heavier remote train, and some changes to Primeval Fight. And they said they're going to give more details in the future, but from my understanding of this text, I'm not sure if invading is going to be a part of it. Invading is honestly one of the most frustrating things about this game mode, and I think it would be better off without it. That is just my personal opinion, so I will be interested to see what they do with that, because maybe Gambit might be something you can jump back into and actually look forward to, like when it first launched. And also in addition, they do go over Crucible after that, and I'm not going to pretend here to be a Crucible master, but I do know from the sounds of it that the Crucible players are generally happy with the maps that are leaving for the most part. Obviously it is going to not give as much variety when you are playing, but it is not going to be as annoying to play on some of the worst maps in Destiny 2's history. In addition to some of the maps leaving, there are going to be some Crucible game modes leaving. The ones that are going to be leaving are Supremacy, Countdown, Lockdown, Breakthrough, Doubles, Momentum Control, and Scorch, but Momentum Control and Scorch having an asterisk. So if you are a fan of those game modes, it's sorry to say this, but they are going to be leaving for some time. We don't know how long. But it does note here that Momentum Control and Scorch are going to return sometime throughout the year during year 4. I'm assuming they're going to get a couple tweaks, and then they might go into a Crucible Labs playlist again. And Trials is going to be staying exactly the same. Now, for honestly the worst part of this whole thing, which is going to be mainly the discussion that we have after the opinion section, once we get to that, is going to be about the raids and dungeons. Dungeons are going to be staying pretty much the same. I think they did know that Prophecy Dungeon will become unavailable for a little while, but that was not the intention of it, so it's going to be gone for maybe like a week or two, and then it will be back into the game as normal. But Pit of Heresy and the Shattered Throne are going to be staying in the game. I'm not sure why Shattered Throne is staying into the game, because there's no purpose to doing it, but I digress. But anyway, probably like the hardest to swallow thing is going to be the raids, and we'll get later into the opinion part of this where I think that this might not be the best idea. But first, let's go over the raids that are going to be staying in the game. And there's going to be the new one on Europa, and then there's going to be Last Wish, and then Garden of Salvation. There's only going to be 3 raids on November 10th. And then the ones that are going to be leaving are all the Leviathan raids. So the Leviathan, Eater of Worlds, Spire of Stars, and then you also have Scourge of the Past, and then Crown of Sorrows, which is also known the Leviathan. But let's go ahead and move on down the list to exotics. It does state here that these exotics will no longer be able to complete it in their original forms, but they will return to some capacity in the game. We just don't know how long it will take, so it's just better to get this as soon as you can, so that way you're not waiting for months on end. But the exotic quests that you are going to want to get done are Sturm, Might of Multitool, Rat King, The Legend of Acreus, Sleeper Simulant, Polaris Lands, Worldline Zero, Ace of Spades, The Last Word, La Monarch, Jotun, Izanagi's Burden, Thorn, Lumina, Truth, and Bad Juju. So definitely a lot of exotics that you are going to want to acquire before November 10th. But it is also important that there are going to be exotic catalysts that are going to be it is going to be Bad Juju, the Huckleberry, Izanagi's Burden, Legend of Acreus, Polaris Lance, Skyburner's Oath, Sleeper Simulant, Telesto, Outbreak Perfected, Whisper of the Worm, and Worldline 0. So those will no longer be able to be acquired anymore. Will no longer be able to be acquired, at least in their original format. So definitely try to get those because we don't know how lengthy it could possibly be. And if you're a solo player, some of these are reasonable to obtain as of right now. So I definitely recommend trying to get as many as you possibly can. But they do state that they could return in a different format if needed. And if you know Destiny, Skyburner's Oath needs all the help it can get. But continuing down the list in any event, let's go ahead and knock out the next stuff that is going to be leaving in November 10th. So we have Story Mission and Cinematic Strikes, which are detailed above, obviously. We also have the raids that we talked about, the dungeons too. But also leaving on their respective planets are adventures, secret missions, vendors and associated bounties, destination and specific patrols, collectibles and scannables, and destination specific events like Mercury's Forge and then the Escalation Protocol. And then freely roaming the destinations and lost sectors obviously are going to be leaving as well. Go ahead and get to the end of our list here. So 801 in the Black Armory and all of the seasonal Forge stuff is going to be leaving, thrown out. So is Gambit Prime, Reckoning, and Season of the Drifter quest. So definitely get that God Roll 9 Hunger if you're still looking for it. And also the Benedict 66, Warner 99, and then the Menagerie and all the Season of Opulence stuff is also leaving as well. So definitely try to get all those collectibles out of the way if you do not have it. And the Pinnacle and Pursuit weapon quests are going to be leaving as well. They said that these weapons will receive an alternative acquisition method. More details to come later in the season, which I'm not sure why they are going to end up doing that. But that is going to be doing it for all the stuff that is leaving. Now let's get into the opinion piece, and I definitely want to have a discussion with you guys. So let me know how you guys are feeling about this in the comments below. It really awesome just to hear you guys' feedback because I don't know if I'm the only one who's thinking this right. So let's just get right into my opinions, I guess. Starting off on the bat, we're going to start with strikes, and in all honesty, I do understand why they are doing this for the most part. It is sad to see for sure some of these are leaving that are generally good strikes, like the Pyramidion, the Strange Terrain, Will of Thousands, True Probabilities, and a Garden World. While they are better, and sadly enough, the Corrupted is going to be staying in here, so that's kind of a slap in the face, if you will. But we also do see that there's going to be 2 new strikes entering at the start of the season, which, I don't know, it still kind of stinks to see the whole list that we're going to be losing like around 6 or 7 strikes and we're only getting 2, but they do note that there's going to be 2 additional ones coming into the season, or in year 4, which does make me question if we're only going to get a total of 4 new strikes throughout this year, because I feel like they would have stated otherwise that there were other ones coming into it, and knowing how the seasonal model works, I don't think we're going to be getting any other strikes. So 7 are leaving and 4 new ones are coming, so definitely not the best look for Destiny in general. And as someone who loves strikes so much, it is good to see that we're finally be getting new ones after, what has it been, like close to a year at this point. So it's definitely refreshing to see that we're going to get 4 new ones in the next year, but it's still kind of sad to see that we're not going to be getting the same amount because strikes are such a huge part of this game, in my opinion. In the event, let's go ahead and move on to Gambit, everyone's favorite game mode, and I gotta say this is good news across the board for just about everyone. If you don't like the game mode, if you do like the game mode, but let me know what you guys think about this Gambit switch. I do like how they're going to be moving more towards Gambit Prime. It is a much more faster paced thing, and it's not as, it doesn't feel like a slog fest, if you will. And it's good to see that they're getting the bad maps out of the way, and I'm very, very curious to see what they're going to do with invading, because if it's not in the game, I'm definitely going to start checking out Gambit more. I'm not sure what the new Gambit is going to be called, but maybe Gambit Perfected or something along the lines of that. I've heard that somewhere, I can't really remember, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated with what they're going to be doing with Gambit. I might start playing Gambit a lot more if there's no invaders, because that can be honestly the worst part of the game. It's just a huge snowball effect, and then there's no point in even playing anymore. So it's definitely good news across the board there for Gambit players. Crucible, I'm not a huge Crucible player, so I can't really give my opinion on it, but like I said before, I think most of the players are happy with the maps that are leaving, and same with some of the game modes. It is going to help out the player count, so I think that's also a positive move there. If you don't have people who enjoy the maps and don't think they're balanced at all, and quite frankly, I know some of them are not balanced. I'm not a huge Crucible player as well. It is good to see that they're going to be making some tweaks or just possibly throwing them out in general. As for dungeons, like I said before, nothing is really changing there. It is just sad to see the Prophecy might be gone for a little while, but I feel like there's going to be so much new content that no one's really going to notice it at that point. So I generally don't think it's going to be that big of a deal that it's going to be gone for a little while. It's just going to be one of those things that we don't even notice because we're going to be playing through the story, doing all the new stuff, and so on. But this is probably, like mentioned before, this is probably the worst part about this is the raids, is they're getting rid of a total of 5 raids, and there's only going to be 3 at launch. Well, there's going to be 2, and maybe like on the following week there might be another one, because it usually comes out sometime, I want to say on Sunday or something like that, so they have people to get ready to go for Worlds first, so it's not going to be exactly on day one, if you will, but the only two remaining ones are going to be Last Wish and Garden of Salvation, which are going to be the only two raids at launch on November 10th, and of course the other one's going to come out whenever that decides to come out. But it's sad to see that Leviathan and all those things in Scourge of the Past are leaving. I do not understand the reasoning behind this, in all honesty, because Leviathan is, say what you will about it, but it's not that bad of an experience. It's not a traditional raid, if you will, compared to all Destiny other things. It's very different at what it does, but none of the weapons are broken and stuff like that, so I do not understand at all why they're removing raids, because there's, for the people who play endgame content, there's only going to be a total of 2 raids to do at the beginning, and then there's eventually going to be 3, obviously, and we will get Vault of Glass at some point, so that's going to be a total of 4 raids. 4 raids compared to 5 that are leaving. So essentially what they're doing is they're subtracting 4 and they're adding only 2. That doesn't seem like a very fair trade, and I don't understand Scourge of the Past at all, in all honesty. I think there still should be raids to do that can get you stuff in the past, because it's just a fun activity to do, and it's also something for new players to experience. It really does stink, and my main issue with this in general is for new players, that if you have friends that you're telling about Destiny, all this cool stuff, it has the possibility of never returning back to this game, which I do not think is a good idea. And obviously this game is bloated and they need to get stuff done, and I definitely completely understand that, but this is not a subscription based game. We paid for all this stuff and it's going to be leaving, and it does leave a sour taste in the mouth, and I'm still not 100% sure how to feel about it. It does feel wrong that the stuff we paid for is not going to be accessible by any means, possibly ever. So it is interesting to see what they're going to go ahead and do with that, and I'm still not really 100% sold on this new way that they're going to be doing this, because this almost seems like a way that people were just complaining about Mountaintop Recluse, all that stuff, and they just needed a way to get rid of it by, instead of nerfing it, they're just taking stuff out of the game, which seems kind of like the lazy way of doing it to some extent, but there's also collateral damage with that, which doesn't seem fair. But yeah, not a huge fan of the raid choices that they are going to be going with. I understand if you remove 1 or 2 just for the fact that like not a lot of people play it, and it does make the game less data heavy, but also getting rid of some of people's favorite raids that they've ever done, and also missing out on loot and stuff like that. Like getting your Midnight Coupe was one of the coolest things you could do in year 1, and it was just such a fun gun, but now no one's going to be able to experience that. And I hope that Anarchy is not going to be entered into the world loot pool, because that was such a hard gun to get, and it requires a grind to some extent to getting it. Like you have to go into the raid. It's not the hardest raid in the world, but it's still a raid nonetheless. And if it just becomes like everyone has it, then it's not gonna have the same oomph, and that's what we need in this game. We need those hard to get exotics that are like, whoa, you have that, where did you get that, kind of thing. So it is going to be interesting to see, but again, I understand what they're doing, but I just don't agree with removing all the Leviathan raids and Scourge of the Past. But now we're going to go ahead and take a look at exotics. Obviously some of them had to leave due to their destination areas and all that stuff, so I understand on the point on there. But the last point of topic is going to be the year 1 campaigns. I did forget to mention this. They are going to be going away, which I don't think anyone is too upset about. For me personally, I didn't hate the Red War that much. I thought it was cool to finally get actual cutscenes in it, and I thought they were damn good with the voice acting and all that stuff. But I know everyone's not a huge fan of it. Curse of Osiris, I could care less. Warmind wasn't that bad. But they did say they're going to be creating a new origin story, which feels like the 5th time they're doing this to some extent, on the Cosmodrome alongside year 4. So to my knowledge, Cosmodrome is going to be launching when year 4 starts on November 10th. There's not going to be like a season that it's going to come with. It's just going to come as soon as it comes. So I'm hoping there's stuff to do there, a lot of cool things to do, exotic quests tied to it and all that stuff. But they said they're going to be creating a new experience for new Guardians, which is like their 5th attempt at this, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, leaving a like does help out a lot. If you guys are new to the channel, subscribing does help out a ton too. We're at 20 subscribers right now, which is pretty awesome in the early stages. I know it may not seem like much, but it's really awesome for real. But as always, guys, have a great rest of your day. I will see you all in the next one. Have a great one.